The day the wrench sang. Owen Krall didn't like paperwork, but he liked getting zapped by half-installed capacitor lines even less. "This damn conduit," he muttered, pulling his arms out from the open wall panel in the south boiler of Nova Terex Colony's hydrocore. Sparks shot out and licked the ceiling. Owen blinked through the singed smoke, sighed, and reached for his worn monkey wrench. The thing had been his father's. Forged back on Earth, supposedly before the seas boiled over. Nova Terex wasn't fancy. A dump by galactic standards, really. Rust-colored soil, dry winds that kicked up silicon storms, and nights that creaked with cold. But it was home. A mining outpost on the edge of nothing, manned by retirees, washouts, and the kind of folks who didn't ask questions so long as the generators hummed. Owen had spent 20 years keeping those generators humming. Outside, the midday sun baked the domes to a dull red shimmer. The air shimmered too, but not with heat. Something was coming. It started with silence. No gullbeast squawking, no wind stirring the dust. Owen noticed it first because his autohammer, usually clicking away in the corner, had paused. Then he heard the scream. Something breached the east gate, someone shouted over the colony intercom. Owen looked down at his hands. Still grease-stained. Still holding the burrito he'd microwaved 20 minutes ago. Then came the thud. Not a footstep. A crater. The east dome folded like paper. Kravul, he breathed. Nobody had seen one in years. Genetically bred war beasts with more muscle than brain, grown for siege attacks and turned loose by raider factions when they got desperate. Owen didn't run. He just stuffed the rest of his burrito into his mouth, slung his wrench over his shoulder, and started walking. By the time he rounded the corner, half the dome was collapsed. Panicked colonists scrambled in every direction. The Kravul, a creature the size of a transport tank, all claws and plated shoulders, was smashing through solar rigs like toothpicks. It locked eyes with him. Owen chewed slowly. "Great," he mumbled. "I just replaced those." Then the Kravul charged. Owen didn't scream. Didn't move at first. He stepped aside at the last second, ducking under the brute's swing. His wrench came down with a clang on the joint of its forelimb. Something cracked. The creature roared. Owen dropped to a knee, slammed the wrench up again, this time into a gap beneath its chin plate. More cracks. He rolled, avoided a stomp, kicked a pipe loose, and used it to jab the creature in its side. Steam hissed. 5 colonists stood frozen in horror. One of them filmed it. Within 90 seconds, the Kravul fell, twitching. Owen stood over it, wrench dripping with alien ichor. He wiped it on his sleeve. "You owe me a burrito," he told the corpse. Security finally arrived. Too late. Later that night, the video hit the network. By morning, over 300 systems had seen a man in overalls beat a war beast to death like it owed him lunch money. Owen didn't go viral. He went legend. And far away, in quiet alien chambers, nervous ministers began to whisper the word human like it was a slur and a prayer all at once. Council of Caution. Admiral Valorix's mandibles clicked softly as the council chamber lights dimmed. The entire ceiling of Station 7 was a projection dome, and it currently displayed the grainy footage of Owen Krall snapping a Kravul's spine with nothing but a wrench and stale lunch aggression. "Pause footage," hissed Ambassador Julek of the Usarian faction, his 3 eyes narrowing. "You're telling me this, janitor, is standard issue?" "Technician," General Thorne McNair corrected. "Human, built like a radiator, voice low like storm clouds." He stood near the center dais, arms behind his back, his uniform lacking medals, but carrying quiet authority. "And yes. Standard issue." There was a long pause as counselors shuffled nervously. "He's not special?" asked Minister Chulak of the Drenari. His breath whistled through his nose vents in staggered pulses. "He fought that beast alone. Without armor. That's a lie, McNair replied evenly. He had a wrench. Several beings flinched. Admiral Valorix turned to the Council's intelligence archive drone. Cross-reference with human military protocol. Does this match known tactics? Negative, the drone buzzed. No registered protocol for burrito distraction, blunt force application via inherited tool. I've come, McNair said, stepping into the silence, not to explain this behavior, but to warn you. Owen is not exceptional. He's average. Panic rustled through the chamber. Lights flickered. This cannot be, growled Julek. Even elite troopers would not. Your troopers train to obey. Ours grow up improvising. That's chaotic. McNair nodded. It is. He gestured to the archive drone. Another video began. Scene 1, a human barber in a low-orbit colony shackled two cybernetic bounty hunters using hairdryers, scissors, and a bucket of warm soup. Scene 2, a school bus driver reversed a hijacked grav sled into an enemy stealth ship's core, then apologized for the mess. Scene 3, a dentist used X-ray shielding to bounce a plasma beam back at its shooter, unintentionally vaporizing the attacker's ship. These are not soldiers, Julek rasped. No, McNair said. They're worse. They're us. Ambassador Julek's expression twisted. You mean to say every human is a combatant? No, I mean every human can be one, when the universe gives them reason. Valorix's mandibles clicked faster. But why do they fight? McNair shrugged. Sometimes to survive. Sometimes for each other. And sometimes, just because they're angry and the tools were nearby. No one spoke. Finally, Valorix leaned forward. What do we do? Adapt, McNair said. Stop measuring threat by weapons. Measure it by intent. By creativity. By stubbornness. Humans don't just fight wars. They repurpose them. An emergency beacon flared on Valorix's comm. Pirate skirmish, Julek asked. Valorix shook his head. A diplomatic convoy attempted to hijack a cargo freighter near the belt of Rammer. Reports say the humans on board weaponized the onboard snack machines. McNair didn't even blink. Standard issue. The salvage kings of Sector 8. Lena Rourke didn't believe in luck. She believed in torque wrenches, hot coffee, and backup fuses. And yet, as the brass beetle drifted into the Arcanian wreck belt, she muttered a small prayer to whatever scrap god watched over salvage crews. No hostiles, no collapses, and no radiation burns, she said, knocking her knuckles against the dashboard. Her ship, a fat, stub-nosed tug patched together from 7 different scrapyards, groaned in response. The beetle wasn't pretty, but she was dependable. Her crew, 6 equally stubborn humans, were the same. Captain, said Ruffo, her navigation tech. We've got something. Derelict, Class 3 battleship, marking suggest Kravari make. Recent kill. Lena leaned forward. Tell me it's intact. Mostly. Tell me it's not crawling with anything. No signs of life. But, heat signatures on Deck 4. Of course there are, Lena sighed. Suit up. 30 minutes later, Lena and 2 crewmates, Tank, an ex-plumber with arms like tree trunks, and Marcy, a geologist who swore by duct tape, floated through the Kravari wreck. It smelled like ozone and melted rage. On Deck 4, they found the heat source, an active crate of Kravari fusion cores. Valuable. Volatile. Probably rigged. Tank, Lena asked. He whistled low. They trip-wired the locking mechanism. Kravari standard trap. Nasty. Marcy rolled her eyes. Give me 5 minutes and some spray foam. Then the alarm screamed. From the darkness above, raiders dropped like metal spiders. Kravari scavenger pirates, 6 of them. Armed, armored, and eager. Drop the tools, barked one. Sure, Lena said, and flung her spanner into his face. The fight began. Marcy sprayed foam in a pirate's face, then shoved him into a bulkhead. Tank picked up a loose conduit and swung it like a bat. Lena fired her arc welder into a raider's thigh. Chaos reigned. Get the drone crates, Lena shouted. Drop the mining bots. Back on the Beetle, Ruffo activated the secondary cargo ramp and released 5 stubby, half-sentient mining drones. They flew into the wreck at full burn, sensors whirring and drills spinning. The raiders weren't ready. One drone latched onto a helmet. Another sliced through a boot. One deployed a flurry of spark grenades. Within minutes, the pirates were either fleeing, foaming at the mouth, or zip-tied to structural poles. Lena stood in the middle of it all, panting, holding a blowtorch. Who the hell sends raiders into an unarmed salvage ship? Tank muttered. Marcy shrugged. They didn't read the last 3 incident reports, apparently. Later, when the council reviewed the footage, they couldn't decide what was more terrifying, the humans' nonchalance or the mining drones labeled with names like Sparky, Bitey, and Larry the Obliterator. Sector Command filed the incident under Civilian Response Anomaly number 147. Lena Rourke just filed it under Thursday. Bobby vs. the Void. Moon Station Caldrix floated in the teal shimmer of gas giant Kestralin's orbit, a half-forgotten supply outpost with more rust than reputation. The rotating ring housed a crew of 23 adults, 4 sanitation drones, and 1 child who refused to be normal. Bobby Trent, age 10, had a mind wired for chaos. His room, located in Auxiliary Storage Bay B, was littered with scavenged tech, broken consoles, old power coils, snack wrappers, and 6 increasingly sophisticated potato cannons. When the raiders came, the adults were in the mess hall celebrating maintenance day. Bobby was alone in his room, building a trap for pigeons that had never existed on the station. The first explosion rocked the outer ring. Power flickered. Lights dimmed. And Bobby's collection of copper wiring danced like snakes. He peeked out into the hallway. Then he heard the metallic stomp of boots, 3 intruders, armored, armed, and laughing in a low growl. Bobby blinked. Grabbed a potato cannon. And vanished into the vents. By the time the raiders reached the command deck, the lights were flickering for a different reason. What's going on with the emergency panel? One hissed. His companion frowned. It's blinking in Morse code. Then the ceiling vent dropped open. A boxy drone fell out, attached to a timer and a small plasma capacitor. The blast was non-lethal but impressive. One raider hit the wall. Another slipped on marbles, real ones, scattered across the floor. A voice echoed through the PA, Intruder Response Protocol, Junior Edition activated. Bobby, now wearing a helmet made from a cereal box and duct tape, sat in the backup control room. He mashed buttons. Redirected coolant from the life support system into the hallway ducts. Within seconds, the raiders were coughing through frozen mist. What the? One growled, slipping. Bobby activated trap number 3. 2 repurposed maintenance arms swung out from storage closets and pinned the last intruder to the wall. By the time the adults arrived, having cut through sealed emergency bulkheads, they found 3 unconscious pirates zip-tied, frozen, and labeled with sticky notes that read, "Do not feed." Captain Joro stared. Who did this? Bobby emerged from the shadows. I did. Can I have ice cream now? Back at Galactic Council Intel, Director Helvan watched the footage in silence. This is a child, he muttered. A child. His adjutant leaned in. We think he learned engineering from Old Earth cartoons. And the weapons? Local recyclables. Helvan turned to his advisors. We're not facing a military threat. We're facing a species with no off switch. Bobby, back on Caldrix, sat cross-legged eating ice cream with a spoon made of melted down boot scrap. His next cannon was already in the works. Classified instinct. In the shadow of the ecliptic belt, hidden within the folds of a dead asteroid's iron shell, the Zalthine built something not even their enemies knew about, Black Station 9. Here, Director Estra paced the command deck beside her AI analyst, Zeth 3, watching failure repeat itself. 1,000 simulations, each designed to model human civilian response to threat scenarios, blinked red across the grid. Each one broken. Each one compromised by unpredictability. Restart Model 88D, Estra ordered. Parameters, low-gravity boarding event. 2 human janitors, 1 alien strike team. Simulation initiated, Zeth 3 confirmed. On screen, the humans, janitors from a retrofitted cargo hauler, responded to the boarding with mop buckets filled with acid, soap grenades, and what appeared to be singing. Pause, Estra sighed. What was the singing? Old Earth Battle Anthem, Zeth 3 replied. Lyrics reference fictional warrior named Rambo. This isn't strategy, she muttered. Correct, said Zeth 3. It's instinct. Across the galaxy, the phenomenon had been observed too many times, human civilians defeating trained military units using kitchen tools, sarcasm, or sheer stubbornness. Now, for the first time, the Zalthine sought to understand it. In the observation bay, Colonel Rick Calder, retired human operative, now consultant, watched from behind reinforced glass. It won't work, he said without turning. Estra glanced at him. You're biased. I'm experienced, he replied. You're trying to predict weather by measuring individual gusts. Humans aren't chaos. They're adaptation. Same thing. Nope. Chaos burns itself out. Adaptation spreads. He pointed to the screen. Those janitors. One's a former bomb tech. The other used to do stand-up comedy. You think that's random? Yes. Calder grinned. That's your first mistake. Nothing about them is random. They're built to handle the absurd. If the galaxy throws plasma guns, they throw peanut butter. If you bring stealth suits, they bring motion-activated sprinklers. Zeth 3-word, Simulation 88D has concluded. Human success rate, 97%. And the failure? Estra asked. One janitor slipped on his own soap bomb. Calder chuckled. Typical. Why can't we model them? She snapped. Why can't we map their logic? Calder shrugged. Because you're trying to decode instinct. Not strategy. Weeks later, a council-wide doctrine revision circulated across the Galactic Defense Board. It read. Do not assume lack of weapons equals lack of threat. Do not provoke human civilians. Avoid surprise engagements unless fire extinguishers, toolboxes, or snack foods are accounted for. Attached was a photo from a failed boarding on freighter Cabbage Runner. It showed a human in pajamas chasing raiders with a leaf blower. Behind him, a chicken wore what appeared to be tactical goggles. Director Estra closed the file. What now? Her adjutant asked. She stared at the final line in Calder's debrief. They don't train. They live. And when you back one into a corner, he just might build a cannon out of your corner. Doctrine of survival. The chamber of the Galactic Strategic Directive Council was normally a place of caution, calculations, and compromise. But not today. Today it was full of silence. Not the heavy silence of diplomacy. No, this was the stunned, dry-throated silence that followed Part 6 of the Human Behavioral Analysis Project, codenamed Initiative Cannonball. So, muttered High Admiral Zentor of the Jalek Core Systems, his voice sticky with disbelief, a human, civilian. Flew a biodrone into an enemy hangar because it was on fire anyway? Yes, Director Estra said calmly. His exact words were, and I quote, might as well steer it somewhere useful. Across the semicircular chamber, species from 37 star nations avoided each other's gaze. They had all seen the reports now. They had all read the post-battle analysis of the S. Moraes incident on Tauvela, where a human scout repelled a Zarnak squad using only chocolate, heated marshmallow goo, and a minor cooking explosion. "Have you seen their children?" hissed Ambassador Gilru of the Venth Coalition. "They build things before they learn ethics. Their non-combatants fight dirtier than our Black Ops divisions," added Fleet Strategist Voral. Director Estra stood. "Gentle beings. The truth is clear. Humans are not superior in might. Not in speed. Not in biology. They are superior in behavioral elasticity. They are not soldiers. They are pressure-reactive anomalies. They respond to loss with invention. To pain with mockery. To threat with curiosity. They cannot be modeled. They cannot be predicted. They can only be survived." There was quiet. Then the chairman of the Crestari conclave leaned forward. "What are you proposing?" Estra turned. "A formal amendment to the Galactic Doctrine." She raised her tablet. Section 72, Humanity. It read. Treat all human civilians as potentially unclassified combat units. Assume any tool, food, or object in their possession may be weaponized. Never assume retreat means surrender. Never engage if hungry, tired, or emotionally unstable, they will exploit it. Under no circumstances interrupt their meal. Ever. On Earth, none of this mattered. In a diner somewhere in Montana, a woman named Ruth flipped pancakes in a skillet that had survived 3 wars and 1 alien skirmish. "You hear about those Zarnax raiders?" a customer asked. "Yeah," Ruth said, pouring syrup. "They broke into a daycare on Europa. Kid tied M up with extension cords. You think the council's gonna do anything about it?" She shrugged. "Probably write a new law. Humans, do not poke with stick." Outside, the sky was blue. And in orbit, somewhere far above the peaceful diner, a Kravari scout ship slowly turned away from its plotted course toward Earth. On its forward display, a red alert. Sector 001, Earth, threat level updated to Instinct Class Apex. End.